And a good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 8 of Mondays with the Mayor. My name is Ed Ryan. I'm your host. And every 2 to 3 weeks, we have Mayor John Gunter from Cape Coral join us to get us up to date on everything that's going on. And for those of you that are watching or listening, just a little bit of fair warning. I did lose my voice yesterday, right in the middle of the show that we were doing on Sunday with the mayor of Fort Myers Beach. So I'm a little hoarse. But I've been told that tea and hot honey or something like that kind of concoction is helpful. So I'll be doing less talking this week than usual. But Mayor, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. I hope you feel better.
Yeah. At least it's not the back this time. I can complain about something else. So the first
I saw a few pictures of you hanging upside down, so maybe that has something to do with
it. Yes. The inversion table, that and the drugs seem to be working. But enough about me. So real quick, I wanted to ask you about, there was some news late on Friday, right when we were starting the show at Hooked Island Grill, about one of your police officers that was arrested for allegedly battering his spouse. Chief Sizemore jumped right out in front of that and said nobody's above the law and put a press release out real quick. I guess I wanted to get your take on this whole thing about the mugshot, and that there seems to be a state a law that says that certain people in government positions can ask that their private information or mugshots or pictures not be posted, and then it's up to the arresting agency to decide. What is your position on all that?
Yeah, I know there is a Florida statute regarding that. I think it's important to know that, the police department here, our police department, does not do the booking or the processing. That's at the Lee County Sheriff's Office who handles that. So, that's not something that we're even involved in. But there is a statute that states that there are certain exemptions for police officers, and that's one of them.
Do you know if that decision is made by once the form, let's say the form is filled out, and I don't know if it was, I'm just guessing because there was no mugshot. That decision is then made by the sheriff's office, not the Cape Coral Police Department, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's something we don't handle any of the booking process. So that's 100% something that the sheriff's office handles.
Gotcha. Okay, so at the last city council meeting, Matt Caldwell, the property appraiser, came to speak and give a presentation, which I think he does to all the municipalities if they ask him to. And he said that it looked like the property valuations in Cape Coral were going to be flat. Were you surprised by that portion of the presentation?
Yeah, I thought we would have a little bit of growth there. I know our staff, when we were developing the FY26 budget, had forecasted about a 4.5% increase. It looks like that our new growth will have about a $1 billion increase over last year. So that's still about a 4% growth. But our existing properties will probably be having a flat assessment this year. So that's, I'd actually asked after that meeting, I'd went to staff, our finance department, and asked, what does that really mean for us? Mm-hmm. Especially when we're just in the beginning stages of developing our FY27 budget. We've only had one budget meeting so far. I said, with the information that the property appraisal forecasted, what does that really mean for us? And what that really means is, to start with, we're going to have about a $7 million shortfall over what we forecasted when we develop our FY26 budget, looking at our FY27. So we know right now, if things hold the way that the property appraisal forecasted, we're going to start off with about a $7 million deficit that we're going to have to overcome. And that's just to keep the services that we have today into FY27. That's not any new positions, no new police officers, no new firefighters. That's just to stay constant on what we have in FY26.
So that sounds like you're in a dilemma right from the beginning. I mean, so how do you address a $7 million shortfall? I mean, I know it's early, but what are you thinking what do you attack first?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think what you have to do is go through the budget and see if there's any areas that we can cut from. A $1.4 billion budget, we can possibly go and cut some of those items to try to find that $7 million. There may be some things that, we can look at, that services maybe that we don't provide that we could cut. It's all about the dollar and trying to balance it. So if you want to do exactly what we did this year, we know we got to come up with $7 million somewhere.
Or raise taxes.
Or raise something. I'm not in favor of raising the millage rate. As you recalled in our first budget meeting, staff, that was something that we've already forecasted and changed, was this year in FY27, staff had forecasted a 5.3.4 mils, which is over and above our 5.14 that we have today. So the council's direction was we wanted to try to keep the millage rate exactly where it was at least for a starting point. And, so this is even more information that the property appraisal has given us. My goal is to try to keep the millage rate where it's at, and try to find that $7 million within the existing budget, things that we might be able to cut from. But also, we heard the police chief stated he wanted to hire 50 officers in the next 5 years, not to include three more firehouses in the next 6 years. So, we had that on the table too. If, public safety is always a very important aspect, in my opinion, to our budget. So we're going to have some tough decisions this fiscal year, and not to mention what's going to happen in our legislation when it comes to property taxes. We have to balance our budget and approve our budget by October 1st, and any referendum regarding our property taxes won't be known until November. So this year for me was always going to be a status quo year, I think, only because of the big elephant in the room with the property taxes, and then with the with the reduction that the property appraisal was forecasted, that only compounds the problem.
So is it safe to say that there's probably not going to be any new police officers added in this next budget cycle?
That's an option. That's an option. That'll be a decision that collectively as a council, we'll have to make. Again, we already have $7 million to come up with. And then, you got to see if you want to add, we may not be able to add exactly what the police chief wanted. We may be able to add a few. We may not be able to add any. That will be the process of our budget discussions here in the next several months, to see how that impacts what monies that we may be able to look at. There may be some forecasted revenues in there that exceed where we thought we would be. So that's something I want to take a look at. We're about halfway through our budget right now. October 1st is when our budget. So end of March, we'll get those numbers next month. That's something I really want to look at personally. We're halfway through the year. Where's our revenues coming in at compared to where we forecasted? So that's something else that we need to look at.
So you've been here since 2017, elected as part of the council. Did I get that year right?
Yes, sir.
Over those years, examining the city's budget as you have, do you think that there's $7 million worth of fat somewhere in that budget that you can find, or that has been padded in there in past years, maybe perhaps that so the services could remain the same for the residents? Or do you think, knowing what you know from those years, that there has to be cuts in services? Where do you lean?
Well, I mean, 7 million. I'm hoping that I'm hoping when we look at our expenses and our revenues, um, halfway through the budget year, that we'll have some promising numbers there. Give you an example. Last year we had about $29 million that was left over. I think we have to try to look at that. Can we utilize that $29 million in a way to maybe to fund some of the projects that that we had forecasted? That's something that we'll have to address. Usually, the practices that we have in place when it comes to our financial policies is that you don't want to use the monies that is left over for reoccurring expenses. So personnel is reoccurring expenses. So that's something, that we'll have to have a discussion with our finance department to take a look at. But I will say, out of all of the years that I've been here, I think this will be probably the most budget that will be that we'll really have to take a look at the numbers more so than we've had in the past that I've been here over the last 9 years. We've had the opportunity to really see some great growth numbers over the last five years or so. And with that, and even trying to keep our millage rate either at the same or going to the rollback rate, even when you have those large growth numbers, you tend to see a lot more revenue coming in, so you can use that money however you see fit towards our public safety and things like that. Now that you're seeing those growth numbers come down, you're seeing those assessed values kind of flatten out. I think this budget will probably be one of the harder budgets to take a look at since I've been here the last 9 years.
Do you think you may need to look at eliminating jobs?
I don't think I don't think personally it's gotten to that point. I will tell you that, you take a look at, our community development department. We're not doing away with jobs, but the city manager has put basically if we lose any individuals, because we have seen a reduction in building permits. And since we've seen that reduction here the last couple of years, he's put in place a policy where we're not filling those open positions. So I can see that that may happen with some of the other departments throughout the city. But, public safety is a very important aspect of our city. And so if we want to provide any type of increases with a reduction in revenue that's coming in, we'll have to make some hard decisions.
So you have a lot of projects that you'd like to get started. We'll talk about some of them that are unfunded. This seems like it'll delay those projects even longer. That's a lot of money to find.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking, I can think of a few projects. We have a facilities building that we need to build. We have a fleet building. You got the yacht club. We still haven't addressed, how the funding. All of these type of projects. Again, I really think this could be a status quo year for us, but we'll just have to see exactly where the numbers come back and what we're going to have to try to do. The good thing with a budget, when the years are good, you try to get as much accomplished as you can. When the years aren't so good, you might have to put your brakes on. It's no different than our own personal budgets at home. Right. When the revenue is good and we're making a lot of money, you can purchase some things that you want to try to purchase. But when the times are a little leaner, you have to be a little leaner in your expenditures.
Why do you think there's a reduction in building permits? What was the report given to you on that? It's just a natural thing, or is it a slowdown in the economy that you're seeing?
Well, I think it's a multitude of things. I see a slight slowdown in economy, interest rates higher. I think that has a lot to do. I mean, you're starting to see them come down a little. When it comes to your economy, basically we're in the middle of a military action right now. You see a lot of influx when it comes to the stock market and a variety of other things. And, so when it comes to investing, whether it's investing in in investments or a second home or a new home or whatever the case may be, when you have these things going on in our country, I think it puts some people on pause. So that's why you see some of these reductions.
All righty. So last week at a council meeting, the council voted to raise the fees for parks and public safety 12.5% per year over the next 4 years. Can you first explain what those fees are used for?
Yeah, when you look at our impact fees, basically impact fees are for new growth. Impact fees when a builder or developer goes and applies for a building permit. Not only do you have permit fees, you have impact fees that you need to pay as well. You have park impact fees, fire rescue impact fees, police impact fees, advanced life supports, those types of fees that are applied to every building permit. I think it's important to recognize that those monies that are collected can only be for new projects, new growth. They can't be used for maintenance. To give you an example, the parks, for instance, you can build a new park, but I can't go and buy. I can't go and do maintenance. I can't paint buildings in the parks and things like that with the money. So I think that's important to recognize. When it comes to impact fees, there's a Florida statute that says exactly what you can use that fee for and what you can't. Just about every city, the 411 cities, 67 counties, they have impact fees. It's nothing unique to Cape Coral. If you look at our impact fees, our park impact fees was implemented back in 1987. And they were last updated in 2002. Our fire rescue impact fees were implemented in 1987, and the last time they were updated was in 2006. Our police and advanced life support, our ALS impact fees, was first implemented in 2006, and they've never changed since then. I think part of the problem, and we've tried to utilize, I know the city staff and city management tried to use the same exact methodology that we did with the mobility fees, where we didn't identify an increase over and above the 12.5%, no more than 50% within a 4-year period. So we've used the same methodology here. I think that's why it passed fairly quickly with not a lot of discussion, because we knew we were using the same methodology. And so, these fees will not be, the average resident, taxpaying resident won't even notice these fees. This is for new development that'll be paid by developers. That'll probably be passed on, to the new commercial projects, the new residential homes. When you look at the fees, our police impact fee, there was about almost a $75 increase. Fire was almost a $72 increase. Our ALS was only about $4, a little over $4 increase. And our parks was about a $140 increase.
You're talking about per year?
Per year, yes, sir. Per year. So, that'll increase 12.5% each year thereafter.
And so what you're talking about is, if I'm a homeowner, if I already owned a home in Cape Coral, this increase doesn't affect me. It affects the next house that's going to be built for future growth. Growth paying for growth is a term you guys use a lot.
This is only for new growth moving forward, and has nothing to do with any existing growth. So it's only for the new developer that's going to be building a new project, has nothing to do with an existing commercial business, or it doesn't have anything to do with an existing residential taxpayer. This is all for new growth.
So an existing residential taxpayer, is that person, are they paying a park fee or their park fees are already gone because
Yeah, they've already paid their impact fee whenever their home was built.
it's a one-time fee.
It's a one-time fee.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. So, so talking about parks, do you have an update on, maybe we can kind of run through them? Festival Park, any update on that?
Yeah, I checked today. Pretty much all the parks that are under construction, Tropicana, Festival Park, JC Park, they're pretty much all on schedule. No real change from the last time we had a discussion. JC Park should be opening up here by the end of the month, end of April. I'm sorry, we're not quite to April yet. By the end of April, JC Park, we should be having our ribbon cutting by the end of the month. I know I haven't been out there in the last couple weeks. I know the city manager, I spoke with him. He was out there end of last week, I believe Friday, at JC Park. I think he visited all the parks that were under construction, Tropicana Festival Park, and he's the one that told me everything's pretty much status quo as far as the expectations, and everything's moving along as planned. So no real new news there.
So, did you mention Yellow Fever Creek? Is that the one that's in?
Yeah, Yellow Fever Creek. There, that's the one that still has the legal matter. I know the new contractors have identified, I think it was 80 different items that needed to be addressed. We're working with, because there was a bond, performance bond on that particular project. I know the city attorney's office is still working with the insurance company, the bonding insurance company, to work out the parameters with that before we get the green light in order to go ahead and make the corrections that need to be made. We're still hoping to get that all completed so we can get the park, that particular park, opened up here in the summer months.
And last week you announced, or the council kind of approved, there's going to be a new park in Councilmember Kaduk's district, or
yes,
and that was money from impact fees collected.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, at first I wasn't aware of that because when all of our backup material, it just said it was coming out of the Parks Capital Improvement Fund. And there's a multitude of capital improvement funds throughout the city. This one was coming out of the park fund. What really wasn't discussed with our backup or presented in our backup material, really didn't learn it until we had the discussion actually in the council meeting, that the monies from the park impact fees was actually going to be transferred over to the Parks Capital Improvement Fund in order to pay for this project. There's some of these projects that are paid for from the general fund. And that's when I had made a statement that if we were paying this through the normal course of just our capital, Parks Capital Improvement Fund, and it was coming out of the general fund, I wouldn't support it. Once I had learned that it was coming out of our impact fees, because that wasn't in our backup material, and actually speaking with the city manager, we are going to change that a little bit in the material that we as a council get, to make sure the source of funding is going to be recognized as well. That way we won't have that misconception in the future. But once I had learned that it's coming from the park impact fees, then I was okay with that particular project.
So on JC Park, take the bistro out of this question for a second. When you cut the ribbon next month, whenever that date is, will it be complete? Like there won't be any work being done. There won't be any construction trucks there. It'll be a done park other than the bistro.
Yeah, and the bistro is supposed to be done on the outside.
Right.
So everything on the outside, and that was one of the directions that city council had gave staff, was what we didn't want to happen is the park to open and, the exterior of the building was still unfinished. The outside area around the bistro was unfinished. We wanted to make sure that aspect was 100% complete. So the exterior will be completed. The only work that will need to be done at the bistro will be the interior modifications, will be the responsibility whomever
Right.
that particular aspect is awarded to.
Right. But what I meant was there's not going to be trucks on the other side of the park still installing palm trees and things like that.
No, it'll be 100% done.
Gotcha. And so on the bistro, right now the Kearns Groups, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's an update, is negotiating with the city on what they might do there. That bid that they put in or the paperwork that they submitted did not really actually match what the city was hoping for. So they're kind of negotiating things. Will you reopen that, or is that now closed? There are other people. I heard from somebody that said they were going to try and put a bid in for whatever it is this week. I mean, is that an option for other people now that the RFP or RFI, whatever you call it, doesn't look exactly like it did when people were first looking at it?
Yeah, you have to remember, this was a request for a proposal or RFP. Statutorily, there are some requirements when it comes to procurement in this process. So the city and the city attorney's office has to go through this process with this particular RFP to make sure that they meet all the Florida statutory requirements. And that's what they're doing now. And, that's it's just a negotiation process. They provided a response to the RFP, not necessarily saying that's exactly what it's going to be when it ends. And then I think the city council said, hey, we want to see XYZ in this process. So our city attorney's office is now trying to negotiate with the Kearns Group in order to bring this project a little closer to what we, the city, is looking for. And that's what they're doing now. Now, during this process, anyone can put in what's called an unsolicited proposal. And that has a whole different process by Florida statute. So that's not happened to date. We're still working with the Kearns Group. And I spoke with the city attorney today, and I know that, they're still going back and forth in their negotiations, but that doesn't preclude anyone from putting in an unsolicited bid, which is a whole different process.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So even though the RFP process is closed for this project, somebody else can still submit what you're calling an unsolicited bid, and it will be given equal weight to the Kearns Group's proposal?
Well, if we don't finalize that, the council hasn't gotten an update on the negotiations yet. At some point, the city attorney will bring back something that they negotiated and to see if the city council will approve it. It probably won't look exactly like, if I had to guess, it probably won't look exactly like the proposal that the Kearns Group put in. It probably won't look exactly like what the city was looking for. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So the city attorney will bring that back to city council and said, this is what we negotiated. It'll be us to make the decision whether we approve it or not. If we approve it, then it's kind of a done deal. If we don't approve it, we could put out another RFP. At any time, you can get an unsolicited bid. We haven't gotten one to date. But right now, anything's still on the table because nothing's been finalized or confirmed.
Because I don't understand the process as well as all you folks do. If you get an unsolicited bid on something like that, are there rules that you have to follow that say you need to get 3 different bids or something like that? Or somebody could just submit something that you guys love and you don't need to go through the, I'm not saying you don't need to go through the process because I don't know what it is, but let's say you get an unsolicited bid and you love it and it's everything the city wanted, you could just take it?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that you have to submit, certain requirements that you have to meet when it comes to an unsolicited bid. First off, when you get an unsolicited bid, city council has to determine, first off, if it's a viable project. And once that has occurred, and with the bistro, we already know that's a viable project because we've already identified that. But there is a whole different set of guidelines with the unsolicited bid. We could go, if we got an unsolicited bid tomorrow, we could still work out the preliminary negotiation and agreement with the RFP and the Kearns Group. And then the city attorney could bring the unsolicited bid forward and said, hey, we got two. Which one do you like? Which one do you want to go with? So that could happen.
And I'm guessing the best option for the taxpayers is have more proposals to choose from, and then you guys can pick the best one for the taxpayers. I'm guessing the one that you guys will think will.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. If you got, more than one to choose from, you got the leverage. When you only have one to deal with, as far as trying to negotiate a good deal. Now, at any time, the city council can just say, well, we don't think it's a good deal. We're not going to accept it. So you don't have to take it. So I want to make that clear. That's in this negotiation, we go through the process, and what we're trying to do is keep the best interest of the city in mind, because this is a city park and city property. So we're going to keep in mind what's in the best interest of the city. If at any point we feel that whatever the agreement that is brought forward, if it's not in the best interest in the city, as a collective body, we could say thanks, but no thanks.
Gotcha.
So, that's pretty much, how that process works.
So speaking of RFPs, I had somebody send in a question, and I was wondering if you knew the update on this. What is the status of the solid waste request for proposals?
Yeah, that has been reissued. I know that it was issued and withdrawn because there was some areas that, quite frankly, the city management thought was in there that actually wasn't in there, and so they withdrew the RFP and corrected a few things in it and reissued. So that's back out there now. There is a date certain when those proposals have to be back in. I don't know the exact date, but I know we are in the period where we are accepting those proposals. We haven't gotten to that date certain. So that's pretty much where we are in the RFP process when it comes to solid waste.
How many companies provide that service? It's not like there's 100 of them out there, right? I mean, it's.
I mean, normally you're only going to get a few. You're not going to get, we're not going to see 30 proposals that are issued. If we get 3 to 5, I'd be surprised. It's going to be minimal. But like you said, there's not a whole lot of solid waste vendors in this area. It could be a vendor that may want to get into this market. So there could be a vendor that submits an RFP that's not even in this general area now. So long as they qualify, there's a minimum qualification in order to be able to submit the proposal. So as long as they meet the minimum qualifications, no matter if you're an existing vendor in the area or you're working somewhere outside of the state or, anyone, as long as they meet the qualifications, they could submit the proposal.
So I don't want to get in the weeds too much because I was totally confused by this discussion you guys had last week about the city buying lots 54 and 55, block 2370. What was that all about? Why did the city purchase those lots? What's the most dumbed down for me explanation about that discussion that went on last week?
Yeah, the city received a grant. It started with the Friends of Wildlife. They have advocated at the state level to receive some grant funding to purchase lots within the city for relocation of our owls or our gopher tortoises. Because of the way the Florida statute is written, the Friends of Wildlife wasn't able to receive that grant. The city of Cape Coral could. So on behalf of the city of Cape Coral, received the grant for that really was started by the Friends of Wildlife. And what we utilize that monies for is to purchase properties throughout the city. So we can use, I think this particular lot that you mentioned was the 13th lot that we've purchased since we've received this grant, which was only within the last 1 to 2 years. About a year to 18 months ago, I believe, is when we got this grant. So this was about the 13th lot that we purchased. The monies comes directly out of the grant money.
Okay.
And this particular parcel had a independent appraisal and had an appraised value of $42,000.
Okay.
We actually purchased the property for $37,000. Now, as a result of the purchase, there was a outstanding balance and also some closing costs that had to be paid in addition to the $37,000. So we actually purchased the property $5,000 under the appraised value, but because of the utility expansion fees, the assessments that had been applied to this particular parcel, and the closing costs, it took the total purchase of that property to $47,960. So all of that monies to purchase that property was paid for out of the grant money that was received from Florida Fish and Wildlife. Now, that particular grant is paid for by the permit fees for relocating the owls, gopher tortoises, and a variety of other species throughout the state of Florida. So that's how that revenue is generated. We were just a recipient of a grant. That's how they pay for that grant through their permit fees.
So that property was not appraised like 6 months ago at half that number that you just shared or something. It seemed like the numbers were cuckoo.
Yeah, if you look at it, if you look at that parcel, it was sold back twice in 2025. And if you go to LIPA on that particular parcel and you look at the Lee County property appraisals, assessed or just value, the adjust value on that property, on LIPA, that property's just value is $58,948. Now, that property was sold twice back in 2025. The first time it was sold for $16,000. The second time, so a few months later, it was sold again for $33,000. What that tells me is someone bought it for $16,000. They got a steal on it. They turned around a couple months later, put it up for sale after they bought it. They doubled their money. And even at $33,000, that was below the property appraisal's value, and it was well below the just value on LIPA. Now, when we go to buy properties here in the city, by our ordinance, we are required to get a appraisal, and the appraisal has to be completed within a 1 year period of time. So that's what we did on this parcel, just like at any other time that we buy property here. The property appraisal came back at 42. That was an independent property appraisal. That's not someone in our property broker here that's employed by the city. They don't do that. That's an outside independent appraisal company that does that. And it came back at 42,000. We offered them 33,000 to the property owner, and we offered them 37,000 to the property owner. They accepted it, but because of closing costs and for us to have to pay off the UEP cost, that's why we ended up at the higher number, 47,960.
Gotcha. And now, are there owls and tortoises on those two lots?
I don't know for sure, but typically that is the case. We try to buy property that already has existing, owls or gopher tortoises on those properties. But I don't know exactly for sure. I'm probably about 80% sure that those properties do have some type of owls or gopher tortoises on them already.
So what is your plan to do? What is the city's plan to do with those properties? And what is a flume? You guys throw words around and abbreviations around sometimes. It goes right over my head. What is a flume?
Well, let me answer your first question. The first question, what are we going to do with that property? That property will be utilized for relocation of any owls or go for tortoises. There is a permit process. You have to go through, the Florida Wildlife Commission. Give an example, me as a builder, say I want to build a house on a particular parcel, and I purchase the property. When I get there, there's 2 owls that are living on that. Certain time of the year, I can relocate those owls. You got to pay a permit fee through Florida Fish and Wildlife. You can relocate those owls where you actually relocate them. They could go to a property like this that we just purchased. That's why we're purchasing these properties. So I think, you have to find a balance between growth and wildlife in our community. And, this is a great example of that. We can relocate, either go for tortoises or the owls to these properties. Like I said, this is our 13th that we purchased through this grant program. There's no cost to the tax residents. There is somewhat of a loss in revenue because as soon as the city buys the property, we don't pay property taxes. Yep. Whoever owned the property before we purchased it did pay property taxes. So there is that loss of revenue that we see, but there's no expenditures that our taxpayers are paying.
So these basically become unbuildable lots. You're not going to put anything on them because you have owls and tortoises and
exactly.
So what's a flume? You guys kept saying you changed the form.
I think you might have got that a little mixed up with.
I'm sure I did.
Another topic of this discussion. A flume is a future land use map, is what that flume stands for. Every parcel in the city of Cape Coral has a future land use designation and a zoning designation. I think where you are getting your comments possibly a little mixed up. Councilmember Long had mentioned this when we discussed the unsolicited proposal that we had received to purchase. I believe it was a parcel up in our academic village area.
Oh, okay.
We, as a city council, recently had changed that particular parcel from mixed use to industrial use. And then several weeks later, we actually got a unsolicited proposal to purchase that property. And I think that probably occurred because we did change the land use classification to industrial, which one of the things that we're trying to do in the academic village area, the parcels that the city owns, is to try to get some development up there, some industrial development that we are in a dire need here in our community, when it comes to industrial use projects. So I think that's probably why we got the bid that we got to purchase the property. Probably wouldn't have gotten it if it was still designated as mixed use.
Yeah, Councilmember Long confuses me every time he speaks at one of the council meetings. So I apologize for mixing those up.
Yeah, that's okay. Sometimes you got a lot of acronyms out there and a lot of there's a lot of rules, a lot of regulations, a lot of statutes that if you and I want to go buy a lot, we just go buy it. When it comes to the cities involved in RFPs and RFIs, there's so many rules and regulations that we have to follow that the average person doesn't. It is quite confusing.
Right. It got me thinking too that I wanted to ask you, we had a candidate for, I think it's Keith Long's seat, Sean Hartman, on the show Friday. And I think he said that the city was losing money on Bimini East or something like that. And I don't think that was factual. Do you know what he was talking about, or can you explain anything about why he would say that?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Sean Hartman's running for District 1, which is Councilmember Stanky's district.
Okay.
Without hearing exactly what he said, I'd only be guessing.
But the city is not losing money, correct, on a project?
The only thing that I can think of maybe that he was talking about, if you recall correctly, we bought that property. We have about $45 million in that Bimini East parcels that we had bought, and then we had grazed all the structures in there. As a result of that, the value of that property has devalued because we've taken all the improved structures down on it. The property appraisal without the structures is about 25 million. So we've lost about $20 million. Now, the intent has always been, this is in the CRA district, that we would put something in place is when a developer would come along, say they're going to build a $200 million project, we're going to be bringing in more monies for that particular parcel than it is bringing in now. And we would use the monies that we've generated over the course of the years of that new development in order to pay for that $20 million loss that we're going to see. And we did that, because we want to, CRAs is to reduce blight, to revitalize the area. It's still not going to be at any cost to the taxpayer. What we'll do is we'll use the ad valorem taxes that we generate for this new project, and we'll pay for that $20 million deficit because we removed the improved structures from the property.
Got it. Okay, so I wanted to bring up the yacht club, see where we are on that, see where you are on that. And can you kind of give us? And if I disappear for a second, it's because I forgot to plug in my laptop. So as you get rolling, I'll make sure we don't go kablooey on this. But exactly where do things stand today with the yacht club rebuild?
Yeah, right now we're still at the status quo. I heard that we would be, as we all know, the seawall contracts have been issued. The construction has started. I do know that the boathouse is still doing their architectural drawings or civil engineering that needs to be completed before they submit for their building permits. I know they still haven't applied for their building permit. I did hear that there's possibly one unsolicited proposal that we may see come forward regarding the boat docks. So I think we need to have probably in an upcoming committee of the whole meeting, council is going to have to decide exactly how we're going to move forward. We're 100% completed with the design. All of that's been completed. So we're going to have to make some hard decisions on pretty much what we want to do, what we want to fund. I'm for a phased approach. I think because of the dollar amount for this project, no matter what we do, it's going to have to be a phased approach. So we're pretty much status quo where we were the last time you and I talked. But I do think here very soon we're going to have a discussion at council. For me, I can tell you my desire. The next phase, we're doing the seawalls. The next phase is going to be it's going to be completing the beach. It's going to be doing the bathrooms for the beach area, for doing the docks, and for the harbor master building. So for me, that's the next phase of the project for me.
And that's with money. And I think, if I remember right, you hope to spend the carryover money from the budget on that. That's what you were hoping for before this $7 million issue came up.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Again, like I told you before earlier in this broadcast, our financial policies, we're not allowed to use the monies that's left over each and every year on reoccurring expenses. That's what our policies are. Again, city council could go over and above that, but that's what our policies are to date. That's been adopted by city council. But to me, if we're not going to have an unsolicited bid for the docks, that's something that I would look at personally and advocate for the monies that was left over, the $29 million. we would utilize that money for those enhancements to see exactly what we could get accomplished with that 29 million. That way, there's no tax burden on the residents, and we don't have to get any type of a loan or a bond for that aspect, like we did. We had to do that with the seawalls.
Right.
We've already approved that, that we'll get a bond or a loan to get the construction of that completed. So, if we can use that 29 million and get this phase of it completed without a loan, I think would be great.
One of the things, again, I've been asking all the candidates as they come on the show on Friday nights is how much they're willing to spend on the yacht club. And it's all over the board. And when Annette Warren came on, she was for the parking garage. Other people are for the community center. But even though they want to spend some money on it, nobody wants to raise taxes. I mean, you're kind of in a bind. There's no money to build anything. And so you're going to have to borrow money, and that means residents are going to have to pay more. So where are you on if you phase it in? No matter when you phase it in, you're going to have to pay for it, and you certainly don't have it in the budget this year. After hearing what Matt said, how much are you willing to spend, and for what?
Well, I can tell you we've already spent about 35 million for design and the seawall construction.
Right.
And if you look at what's left over, off the top of my head, Harbor Master Building and the docks and the bathrooms down there, that's pretty much going to eat up that 29 million. To me, that's the next phase. Again, I've said this many times. I'll say it again. The big elephant in the room is property taxes. Where that's going to land during the legislative session. We know we're going to have a special session coming up that will specifically talk about some type of property tax revisions. I'm not inclined to bite off a big amount of any sort until we know exactly what they are proposing and wait to see what happens in November if it goes to a referendum. So for me, the only thing that I would utilize going into FY27 discussion would be the $29 million that was left over, and then wait to see exactly what's going to happen with property taxes. We approve our budget in September. That goes into effect in October. We won't know the outcome of any referendum. And I think there's going to be some type of referendum. I don't know what, but we won't know the outcome of that until our general election in November. So to me, we got to wait and see where that lands, because that could be very extremely impactful for our city. So that could be a game changer. So that, to me, we have to identify that first.
So if there is property tax reform, any kind that impacts your budget, in addition to this $7 million, what does that mean in your mind to the yacht club and the future? When you get all this stuff that you've kind of already paid for off the table, what does that mean for you?
I think we have to look at all of our capital improvement projects that we're going to be paying through out of our general fund and prioritize them. And look at do we need exactly and there's a variety of projects. You got
Sure.
the fleet building, you got the facilities building, you got the yacht club down here, and other park projects. We're in the process of reestablishing a new park master's plan. We're in the process of doing that. We can only pay so much out of impact fees. So I think you may look at all those projects and have to downsize if we see a large, we're not only seeing a reduction in our ad valorem tax, we could even have, there was some discussion of having our homestead exemption increased from 50,000 to 200,000. Just that alone would be somewhere between a $20 to $25 million loss in revenue for our city. Our state senator, Martin, came to Florida League of Cities, Southwest Florida League of Cities meeting last week. His goal, quite frankly, he wants to reduce property taxes altogether. How we're going to do that, I don't know. There's going to be a lot of discussions there. I surely don't want to see our state sales tax go to 18%. So there's still there's more questions than answers when it comes to property taxes.
Mayor, when Senator Martin says to you, let's just go with what you said, from 50 to 200,000, what does he follow up with? And here's how we're going to make it up for you.
Now, unfortunately, he has said that before. He wanted to say that if we do a property property tax reform, that it will be a net neutral for the cities, where there's other avenues that we could generate revenue. I got all the respect for Senator Martin. I know he's going to be looking out for the best interests. He even said, the city of Cape Coral will probably be the most impacted city out of the state of Florida when it comes to property tax reform. And the reason for that is 92% of our tax base is residential, 8% is commercial. There's no other city in the state of Florida with that ratio. What that tells you is, if we remove the residential tax base, we will be the most impacted city. He recognizes that. I don't know how we can navigate through that process, but that's something that we are going to have to closely monitor.
When he says other avenues, was he specific?
He's talked about sales tax in the past. He didn't mention anything in our meeting last week of identifying any additional revenue sources. I think that the state, some of his comments in the past were, the state would give the latitude to the counties and the municipalities in order to, and sales tax was just one example. I personally believe that's a bad idea because, if our county, Lee County, and the city of Cape Coral try to increase our sales tax exorbitantly, what that's really going to do, we have a problem getting commercial businesses here now. If we have one of the highest sales tax rates, you're not going to see car dealerships come to Cape Coral. Right. They're going to go somewhere else. They may go over to Punta Gorda, where it could be cheaper. I don't know what it's going to be, but what you're going to see is counties and municipalities all across the state with a variety of sales tax rates. And all that's going to do is push those commercial businesses to the city or the county that has the lowest rate. I'm a business owner. If I don't need to be in this specific area, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I don't think that's a good option. I think that would make the state look like a hero, and that will make the municipalities and the counties look like a zero.
Yeah, I haven't heard any other than sales tax. I haven't heard, and I ask everybody what other options could be. I mean, can you imagine? You got Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach trying to rebuild, and they have to go higher, and the costs are more, and then you're trying to get people to come down to stay there, and then you're going to charge them an 18% sales tax on a burger. That's already $30.
And then you look at the less fortunate in our community,
right,
that are living paycheck to paycheck, and some of them can't even live paycheck to paycheck. If they got to go to the gas station, if they have to go to Publix or wherever they may shop to get food, and they got to pay 18%, they're not going to be able to do it. So right. I think it's going to be catastrophic for that individual, that group of individuals that are struggling now.
Have they said when the special session is going to be?
No, I don't think they've identified that. They're going to have I think 3 special sessions.
Oh wow!
One is for the budget that hasn't been approved, the state budget, and I think that one is going to be for this property tax reform, and I can't recall the last one offhand. But I think that there's probably there's probably going to be three. With the state budget between the House and the Senate, there's about a $1.4 billion gap right now that they need to come together as a legislation and identify the budget. I think that's going to be the first session. Then the next one will be the property tax reform, and then I believe there's one more.
The thing too is that if this goes to a referendum, it's going to pass like it's going to be crazy. I mean, people want tax reform, but I don't think they know what they're not going to get if they vote yes for it. But I mean, it'll be interesting to watch the education process of the city's going to be aggressive in telling, the residents, are they allowed to lobby against a referendum? Is that part of the whole education process of what services might be cut? And then how do you know if, they're going overboard and the scare tactics? I'm not saying you guys would do that, but I mean, it's got to be, you got to educate the voters on that.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. I'll give you an example. I was a guest speaker last week at a homeowners association. There had 75, 80 people there. And we had this discussion, and I said, who here would like to have their property taxes either reduced or eliminated? Everybody raised their hand, including myself.
Sure.
But I started explaining the ripple effect. I said, okay, let me tell you about the ripple effect. The ripple effect in Cape Coral is, as a result of the ad valorem tax, we bring in $157 million a year. Last year, 102 of the 157 was for public safety. The rest went for road improvements and maintenance and the parks and public works and a variety of other, paying our employees, that sort of thing. So that 157 left us with $55 million. Now you start taking that monies away from us, we're going to have to cut services. We're going to have to cut different quality of life programs.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to probably cut our public safety. And then, or we're going to have to find ways to become net neutral with that revenue loss. One way could be 15 to 18% property taxes. Knowing that, how many in this room now want to see their property taxes be eliminated? Not one person raised their hand.
You mean sales tax? You said property tax.
Sales tax, yeah. So if we raise our sales tax to that high of a rate, everybody would love to have their property taxes reduced or eliminated. And I, for one, would love that. Unfortunately, you got to see, okay, what's going to happen if we do that? Do you want to, decrease your services? Do you want to, reduce your public safety budgets? I mean, I don't personally want to do that in our city.
Well, how much of a benefit really is it if you, I mean, maybe it is, I haven't done the math. If you're eliminating, or if you're moving it from 50,000, the homestead, to 200,000, and you save X amount. Now I'm still going to Publix and I'm buying groceries at 18% on sales tax. I mean, not really. Over time, you have to compare, are you really saving that much money? Maybe you are. I haven't done the math, but you got to do without some services. Maybe your trash is only picked up once a month instead of once a week or whatever it is. Who knows what that whole thing is? But one of the other things I learned last week was that you, the mayor in Cape Coral, has a line item veto. I had no idea that was the case. Have you ever used that option?
No, I think it's only happened once in the history of Cape Coral.
Yeah.
And the reason that I say that, I do have that available to me, but it can be overturned by a supermajority vote by the council. For me personally, most of our decisions are by a majority vote. And if you go back and you look at our budget votes over the past, it's usually by at least a supermajority vote anyway.
Right.
So if I did a line item veto, the chances of it being overturned is pretty high.
Yeah, you guys have worked through the budget workshops and the budget process, and you come to some kind of agreement.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at most of the 9 years that I've been here, it's either a 8-0, 7-2 vote. I'm sorry, 7-1. That's been a majority of what our votes have been when it comes to adopting our budget.
You look in your crystal ball right now. Do you think that you're going to be able to? I know there are many variables, so I'll shoot it out there anyway. You think you're going to be able to keep the ad valorem rate where it is now, or even maybe roll it back? Is that an option with what you see so far?
What I see moving forward, I think that, again, trying to keep status quo. I think for this year, try to keep the millage rate exactly where it's at until we know exactly what's going to happen with the property tax reform. Like I said earlier, I think this year is going to be a wait and see year for us. I think it's going to kind of be a status quo, and I don't think that we will see us go back to the rollback rate. But I will say, with the assessed values staying as flat as the property appraisal, the rollback rate could actually be an increase. Typically, it's always a decrease. So, keep that in the back of your mind. There comes a point in time where the rollback rate, in the 9 years I've been here, has always been a reduction.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to time that you're not bringing in as much or less revenue than you did last year, the rollback rate is an increase. I'm not sure where that's going to fall this year. It could be, and if it is a reduction, it's going to be an extremely small reduction compared to where we are. I think that the rollback rate this year will probably stay the same. But we're going to have to see where the numbers are. We haven't gotten all the data. Finance hasn't brought everything else to us. And June 1st, we'll get our preliminary numbers from the property appraisals. July, we'll get our certified numbers. We'll have a much better understanding there. I'm hoping by July, we're going to know exactly what's getting put on the ballot for property tax reform. So there's a lot of unanswered questions right now. So for me personally, I'm in a wait and see scenario and kind of a status quo. So that's where I'm at personally. But, as a city council, we make those discussion or those decisions collectively, and we'll see where that goes.
Are there any other city issues that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think we addressed most of the important ones.
Okay.
The only other thing I'll tell you, I get a lot of questions on is the where we're at with our Army Corps permits.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah, the Army Corps permits. We've gotten two here in the last two of the permits, which they're basically maintenance permits that we applied for back in 2023. They were recently approved and issued here in the last week or so. We still have 4 outstanding permits out there right now from the Army Corps. We got the Matlacha Rim Canal dredging project. That's still out there waiting. The Bimini Basin mooring field, the Yacht Club Pier, and the D&D boat ramp improvements. So those 4 are still outstanding. So that's where we're at with the Army Corps permits.
Is the government shutdown playing any role in this delay to get the permits?
Yep, 100%. They said the government shut down every time that they're shut down, their office shuts down, and then they have to get back up to speed. That usually takes about 30 days just to get back up to where they were before the shutdown. And then recently, we've been told Army Corps has a policy in place. If they lose any of their employees, they are not hiring new replacement employees, kind of like we're doing with our building department. So any employees in the Army Corps, as far as the private sector employees, they're not replacing them. So that's having an impact as well.
So you have no idea in the order of approvals or denials when it comes to the permits at the Army Corps where your peer stands?
No, I mean, we're at their beck and call, really. I mean, we we ask for updates, or occasionally we'll get some additional information that we request, and we get that submitted to them promptly. But the 2 permits that were applied last week, we applied in 2023. We're in 2026. That should tell you right there.
And you're like the Fort Myers Beach pier is in the same spot. They're just waiting for the permits. The county's ready to rebuild that pier. Are you guys also ready to rebuild your pier? You're just waiting for that last permit?
Yeah. And we've asked for, reimbursements through FEMA because it was damaged in the storm. And we're going through that process. But monies, I don't think, is the issue, is the permit.
Right. Okay. Lastly, any campaign events coming up that people can attend in your mayoral run?
Yeah, we'll probably have something in April. I'm looking at the April now. So, we'll probably have an announcement soon. I have a few individuals that have come forward and said they'd like to have some type of a fundraising for me. So we'll probably have an announcement here soon on that.
All right. And Paige, nice to hear from Paige. Is the mayor going to go to Washington with Brian Hammond?
I know that council member Jennifer Nelson.
She just went there. Did she go already?
She just came back. I think Maureen Bice from the city manager's office, they met with our lobbyist up there and some of our legislators. So I know they had just come back here recently within the last week or so. So at this time, I don't have any plans of going to Washington.
You have enough to do. You go to enough meetings.
Yeah, we try to divide and conquer. I know she was just up there with a member of our management team out of the city manager's office. So at this time, I don't really. I do a lot of things at the state level, and some of the other council members do things at the federal level.
Anything big that you can that people should look out for at the next council meeting this week?
No, it's. I think the agenda's out. Went through it with the city managers today. There's nothing on there that really jumps out. No hot topics. We'll just have to wait to see citizens' input, see how that shakes out this week. But as far as the agenda itself, I think it's pretty straightforward.
You feel like you got control of citizens' input? I see when you took the recess, the last meeting, everybody came back and they were doing this little hand wave thing.
Yeah, I understand people want to express their either approval or disapproval when it comes to comments either by council or by another member of the community that's participating in citizens' input. We have rules that we have to follow. As adults, I think we can get through this process. We can make sure that they have an opportunity to express their opinion. All the clapping and the whistling, and it's a business meeting, and the rules apply. And unfortunately, as the mayor, I run the meeting, and it's my obligation and responsibility to make sure the rules are applied that city council have adopted by resolution. That's my job.
Right.
And unless the rules change, I'm going to make sure that we follow the rules. And I think as adults, this is extremely easy to achieve. Right. We just got to work together. As you said, I made a recommendation. Hey, wave your arms up in the air instead of clapping. That's what they did. The point still gets across.
Sure.
And we can follow the rules. So if that's what we have to do to kind of navigate this process, and we both had the opportunity to express our opinion, great. And that's what we got to try to do.
One last question I wanted to ask you about the way that the council, and this may be a rule that was instituted, like a council member speaks when they want to speak, a light goes on that you must see in front of you, and you pick them, you know who it is. But there's not really a lot of like discussion back and forth. It's one council member says something, and then the next one, and then the next one. Is that by design that there's no interaction? Like I don't want to, like debate on an issue, like where it's just too confusing.
There's no rule against that.
I see.
In our rules, it does say that after citizens' input, council members have an opportunity to.
No, I don't even mean that. I mean even when you're talking
back
about
and
an
forth
issue.
with us, there's no rule on that.
I see.
Uh,
It could happen.
we could. There's no rule for it. There's no rule against it.
Just keeps things in order.
Yeah, and then I think what the average person don't understand, we do have a set of guidelines and rules that are adopted by a resolution by City Council. But if it's not noted in the rule, we automatically defer back to Robert's rules,
Yep.
and that's what's stated in the rules. If the rule doesn't isn't outlined or identified in our council rules of procedure, then we automatically defer back to Robert's rules. And that's my job, to make sure that we are adhering to both.
Gotcha. All right, Mayor. Well, we went a little long, but a lot of great information. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we can see you again in 2 weeks with updates from the last council meeting. And have a happy Easter weekend.
All right, I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate everybody that tunes in, that listens to try to get
Get the facts.
Accurate and factual information, and make sure you drink some more of that tea and honey.
Thanks a lot. Have a great night.
All right, you too.
All right, the mayor of Cape Coral, everybody, John Gunter. Appreciate his time. A lot of great information there. If you joined us late, you should go back and tune in and watch it from the beginning. We covered all the topics: the yacht club, JC Park, the appearance by Matt Caldwell, which was, I think, the big news from tonight. That the city starts with a $7 million shortfall in the budget. So we're going to go back and listen to that and put that out there on our Facebook page so everybody can see what the mayor was talking about. You all have a great night. Thank you for all the suggestions, and we'll see you Friday night at Hooked Island Grill. Bye-bye.